Now we'll move on with SA 580 written representation. And the objectives of the auditor are to obtain written representation from management and TCWG that they believe they have fulfilled their responsibility. Who had fulfilled their responsibility? Management and TCWG. While what is their management responsibility in preparing the financial statements and design, implement, and monitor the internal controls operating effectively, which are operating effectively. So we are only concerned about the financial statements here. So they have fulfilled their responsibility for the preparation of financial statement for the completeness of information provided to the auditor. Second thing, to support other audit evidence relevant to the financial statement. You see, written representations support the audit evidence. They are not substitute to the audit evidence. Okay. To respond appropriately when written representation requested by auditor provided or not provided. That is, auditor has to respond with that. The date of written representations shall be as near as practical to, but not after the date of auditor's report. That is, after the auditor's report, it has to not be written representations have to not be taken. Written representations have to be taken prior to signing of the audit report. And audit evidence obtained is not sufficient without obtaining the confirmation from the management that is believes that it has fulfilled their responsibility. That is, yes, written representations were not substitute to the audit evidence, but they support the audit evidence. They are supporting these written representation are supporting the audit evidence, which itself would not be self-sufficient. So the management, we are having a written representations which confirming beliefs that management had fulfilled their responsibilities. And here are few types of some additional written representations about the financial statements, and with regards to specific assertion, few written representations are there. Will you could just read it once. You see, additional representation with regards to financial statements is the policies through which it has been preparing the financial statements were appropriate, and the carrying value with regards to the classifications of assets and liabilities which were both contingent and actual had been there, and the title with regards to the assets that were pledged and collateral. By the way, the difference between set off, pledge, mortgage, we have discussed that in keyword kit series, right? Do check that out also. And aspects of the laws and regulations and all with regards to the how within the environment in which the financial statement have to be prepared. This is not so important, but it would be very nice if you write, if it gets a direct question, or you could write that if it's just like what all the things that instead of specific, what are the policies and procedures, laws and regulations, and with regards to the carrying value. And these were the written representation you have to take for the financial statements. And for the specific assertions like past history and choosing a particular course of actions, like to accept this investment policy or not, like that, and entities' ability to pursue specific course of action, both were mostly the same, and the entities' lack of any other information that might have been obtained during the course of the audit, which was inconsistent with management's judgment. And you see, this is not so important. And with that said, we'll just dive into SA 580. First thing, written representation about auditor has to obtain written representation in supporting of audit evidence. Okay, what the written representation have to be? For the preparation of financial statement, that management is taking responsibility in the preparation of the financial statements, one thing, and relevant information provided and completeness of the transactions. Have you heard something like this? It is the premise of the management. Yes, premise of the management, that the management like it has responsibility in preparation of financial statement and all the information that was given to the auditor, and it would cooperate and it give all the books of accounts and all the additional information and all. Have you remember, if you remember the premise of that, that is what they are talking about. And with regards to the doubt as to reliability of the written representation, when the auditor will have a doubt on the written representation's reliability, when if the auditor had concerned about the competence, integrity, and ethical values or diligence of the management. We have discussed this. You see, when auditors had found some fraud, what will have? It would cast a doubt on the integrity and ethical values of the management, which would also bring a doubt on the reliability of the written representations. This is our discussed point earlier. If written representations are inconsistent with the audit evidence, you see, written representation has to be in support to the audit evidence, but here they were contradictory. So then also they would cast a doubt on the reliability of written representation. If the auditor concludes that the written representations are not reliable, they haven't given any reason for that, but auditor finally concludes that they were not reliable, and the auditor shall take appropriate actions. This is again the objective of the auditor, to respond, including determining the possibility effect, whether he has to modify us for SC 705. Two things which would cast a doubt on the reliability. First thing, when has concerns with regard to competence, integrity, ethical values of management, and they are inconsistent with the audit evidence. And finally, they have not given any reason, but auditor concludes that they were not reliable. And auditor, what he has to do, he has to take respond to that, and if he requires, he could modify the report. And if management does not provide one or more than requested written representation, if management has not provided written representations only, what the auditor has to do? When management was not doing the work or not providing the information or putting a restriction on the auditor's work, we discussed in our keyword kit series, right? Same thing has to be written here. It repeats the same thing. Discuss with the management and re-evaluate the integrity of the management. If they're found reasonable, you have to alternative audit procedures and all. If not, you have to modify the report. This is the same thing. Discuss with management, re-evaluate the integrity of the management and the reliability of the representation that were taken. Take appropriate action like possible effect on the opinion in audit report in accordance with SC 705. And recon- reconfirm the understanding of management responsibility in written representations. That is, you take a written representation confirming that the management has understood its responsibilities. Those who sign the terms of the audit engagement on behalf of the entity no longer has relevant responsibility. You see, when you have to reconfirm the responsibilities of the management through written representation, when those who signed the audit engagement, in audit engagement letter, we have what? Responsibilities of the auditor as well as responsibilities of the management and the scope, etc. Right? You see, those who signed the audit engagement were not no longer have the relevant responsibilities. That's one thing, that's change in management. Second thing, the terms were prepared in the previous year. And second thing, the terms were misunderstood and there were change in circumstances which make it appropriate to do so. That is when, like, change in management and change in the terms or misunderstood or change in circumstances. And where the current management was not present during the audit period that was referred in the financial statements or the period of audit. There was a new management that had been there. So this such person may assert that they do not were in a position to provide all the written representations because they were not in place during that auditing period. So this would not diminish such person's responsibility for the financial statement as a whole. So even they were there in the auditing period or not, those responsibilities, those management responsibilities would not diminish the financial statement as a whole. The written representations relate to a matter which are material to the financial information, then the auditor should seek corroborative audit evidence from other sources inside and outside the entity. That's like a written represent. It's just a call out here to just remember that if it's something that was material, he has to obtain information or have to obtain audit evidence from various sources. And auditor should evaluate whether written representations were reasonable and consistent. Reasonable and consistent with what? All the other audit evidences. And she'll consider whether individuals making such representations can be expected to be well informed on that matter. And written representation cannot be a substitute for the audit evidences. And we are expecting that those who are giving the written representations are have proper information and they are well informed with that. And written representations shall be in form of a representation letter. Why we have given this? For the MCQ purpose. written representation letter addressed to the auditor. It's like they are communicating to the auditor. And that's it. We have completed our whole 500 series with this.